So this is a webinar on using online learning in an elementary school with different strategies, both covering synchronous and asynchronous. The first thing that you'll see here is we've got a support button, and the support button allows us to. These are click sheets, support articles. So we're gonna, for example, we work with a lot of grade books that are out there. So I'm gonna type in grade book there and then just search the articles, and it shows me the grade books that All in Learning works with. So what that means is if you see your grade book there, that I don't think that's exhaustive either, because I know we work with some additional ones. But if you see it there, for sure, that means I do an assessment in All in Learning. I don't have to hand in the grades into that grade book. Okay, so that's just, we want to save you time in the process. There's also a button there for live chat. So if you get stuck, you need help, we have support agents that are there and ready to help. Because you're attending this live, we've got I'll provide my email address at the end of the webinar, and we'll get you a certificate for attending the training. So where I'm going to start is in a live classroom environment. I'm teaching, and I want to get feedback as I teach. All right. So we've got, many of you may be familiar with our clickers, and a lot of schools have purchased those, and teachers have loved using them to get the feedback and the student engagement. So I'm going to show you how All in Learning can work as a web clicker. So the devices that the students will have at home, Chromebooks, iPads, desktop laptops, PCs, etc., Macs, all of those, and even student phones can be clickers in our cloud. So what that means is that I can teach, I can assess, and I can get that feedback as I teach, all right? Even in this distance learning environment with students in the scattered classroom as it is. So that's the first thing we're going to do. So from the home screen in All in Learning, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click Launch Clickers. Now, key to this strategy is it's zero prep. So you don't have to go and load the slides, load the questions, and plan this all out in advance. In fact, it's the opposite of a tool like PowerPoint or Kahoot or Quizzes, that I've got to go build it in advance to use it the next day. In fact, that's what I would be doing tonight, would be preparing my PowerPoint or whatever. So with All in Learning, we're going to do this. We're going to use the clickers. We're going to launch the clickers on the fly. So it's zero prep. So just there are two options here. If every student has a device, right? I don't have any All in Learning equipment, I'm going to use the web clickers. If I have students, let's fast forward a couple of months, and you've got 15 students in the class and 10 students still at home. Well, if you have our clickers, the students in class can use the clickers, the students at home can use their web clickers, and we're getting data from that mixed environment with students at home and at school. And so I'm going to use the All in response pads here, because I've got some that I'm going to use here in our lesson. And so this is the Wednesday lesson, and I'm going to put the standard that I'm covering here. All right. So, and then I'm going to select my class. Now, what I would do is I would tell my class, students, I've logged in. I need you to log into All in Learning, because I've started a clicker session. It's called Wednesday Lesson 5.6b. So I'm going to be a student now, all right? So I'm going to slide over. So here I am right here. Hi, everybody. A lot of your students will sign in with the Google option there on the right side of the screen. Okay, so they can sign in with that. They can set up, we were loading for most schools the email addresses. So if you're not Google, but we have the student email addresses coming in from, ClassLink or Clever or PowerSchool or Skyward or something like that, Focus. If we're getting the email addresses, the students can just set up an email and a password. I'm going to use my QR code. So that's another way to do this. The students will set up a passcode, and then they'll say get an assessment list. So the teacher said, hey, log in and launch your clicker. So I've done that. So now I'm ready to go. So there's my clicker. And the teacher, as a teacher, I'm just going to start teaching, right? And I'm going to try to get feedback as I teach. So now I've taught for 10 minutes, and I want to see if they got it. Okay. So I'm going to ask a question. So I'm going to make up this question. It's zero prep. So we were talking about capital cities and elevation. And I want to know which of the following capital cities is at the highest elevation. Is it A, Austin, B, Little Rock, C, Santa Fe, or D, Denver? Okay, so you think about in a different era when you're in a classroom and all the kids are in front of you. Hopefully we're back in that era very soon. All the kids are in front of me, and I would ask the question, how many hands go up to answer that question? What teachers typically say, it's the same 3 or 4 kids that always raise their hand to answer the question. So I want you to think back to this, to February, okay? And you would ask that question. Were there kids that never raised their hand? Were the kids that never raised their hand all year long? You can probably picture them in your mind. So with all the learning, so that may even be more pronounced in a distance learning environment. I don't know. But what we're going to do is we're going to ask a question, and I'm going to click start question. And now the students are going to answer the question. So, right, so I'm going to slide over, and I'm Tom. Tom's going to answer the question, and then I'm going to slide back. So now I'm the teacher again, all right? And I just click in question. All right, so I taught on that for 10 minutes. We can all agree that's not the bar chart that I wanted, right? I wanted everybody to get it right and no one to miss it. But as a teacher, when is this data most valuable to me? It's right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the correct answer. Now, D was Denver. Denver's a mile-high city, but Santa Fe is 2,000 feet higher than Denver. So the correct answer is C. So a third of the class got it. So if I called on AJ to answer the question and AJ says the correct answer is Santa Fe, I say, great job, AJ. Class, does everybody get that? All the kids will look in the camera and they'll give me a thumbs up, right? And I'll say, are there any questions? And they'll give me a thumbs down, and I'll say, well, great, we all got it, right? But when I use all on learning to ask that question, all right, now I know that we didn't get it and I should reteach it. Okay. So if you, we've been, I've been in the education business for a long time and been promoting and providing tools that support formative assessment, student engagement, and this in the moment data, this immediate feedback for a very long time. All right. That strategy is tried and true. It works, and it's always been important. All right. My contention and belief is this fall, it's more important now than ever. And the reason is because we have gaps that occurred in the spring. We missed instruction. Since the school buildings shut down, school continued. You all did a fabulous job of building and flying the plane at the same time. But we know that there are gaps. So what I need to do is I need to have a tool that helps me identify when students are struggling earlier so we can identify those gaps, and then we can build on it and we can intervene and we can help students, get their arms around why they're struggling and what they're struggling on. So I've got the data. I'm tracking each student individually, so I know exactly who needs help. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to back up here just 2 slides. So I'm running the PowerPoint now, okay? And what this shows is we're doing synchronous live instruction, all right? And so all in learning, what we add to that synchronous instruction is synchronous engagement, synchronous data, and synchronous feedback. So we're going to add some teeth to that, all right? So I've got, I can use the clickers with anything I want to. So we're going to do a couple of quick examples here. But now I've got a PowerPoint question. And so I'm going to click start question. and everybody's going to answer this question, all right? All right, so I'll have the students answer that question. Tom's going to answer it as well. I click in question. All right, so, well, I thought I taught that well, and I thought everybody had seen Hamilton, so everybody knew what the right answer was, but the right answer is George III, okay? So 44% of us got that one right. We're inching in the right direction, okay? But I've got the feedback. So anything that I've got a question in or content in that I want to use, man, you just keep using it, okay? I'm going to go back to a website now. So I'll go to, I'm just going to open up another tab. All right. And then let's see where it is. I'll just go to Brainpop right here. And I'll click start. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to grab my clicker bar and I'm going to click start question. So again, this is, you're not, you can use whatever you want to in this environment. All right. With the content that you're asking. Tom's going to answer the question as well. I'll click in question. I click on the correct answer. All right. So again, we're getting good feedback here as we go. And if I'm going to watch a YouTube video or show a YouTube video to the class, you know what I may do? I may say, hey class, launch your clickers or get out your clickers, whichever one it is. Because as we watch the video, I'm going to pause it and I'm going to ask questions. Now, does that change the game on how those students approach that video? Absolutely, especially if they're at home, right? If they're in the class, you get your eyes on them. If you're watching the video, well, we're going to stop 3 minutes in and I want to ask a question and then we'll keep going. And then I'll stop 5 minutes later, I'll ask another question, all right? So the last thing that I want you to see here, and I think this could be a really good strategy this fall, okay? So I know a lot of you have document cameras and will use document cameras, all right? And so I'm going to, if you have that software, that's great. I can just have the clicker bar float to that, but I've got in All in Learning the ability to access the document camera. So I've got a document camera plugged in and I'm going to select it. Now I've just done something really simple here, okay? So I've just written one of our vocabulary words for the week. So the way that I like to do this, I don't want to know, do you know the definition? I want to know, do you know if it's used correctly or incorrectly in a sentence, all right? So I'll say, so I'm going to use it in a sentence. A is correct, B is incorrect. The students turned in their homework early for once. The students turned in their homework early for once. So what I'm going to do is I'll just click start question. And the students are going to answer the question. Tom's going to answer the question on his clicker. I'll click in question. The correct answer was B because it was T-H-E-I-R, all right? What I want you to see is I'm going to pull up my teacher app, okay? So in All in Learning, we've got a teacher app, and there are two, so I'm going to put it under here. There are two buttons on it, okay? One says grade and assessment, the other says private data. Private data will tell me, so just to have it here side by side, private data will tell me the two students that missed that question in the moment. So I'm not showing this to the class, but Tom and Charles are the two students that missed that question. You with me? So you see how I'm identifying the students that are struggling as I'm teaching, as I'm assessing, all right? So I'm going to click close there. I'm going to go ahead and end this session, all right? So I just wanted you to see the students are at home. That does not mean we have to sacrifice engagement and data and feedback as part of our instruction just because they're at home. No, we want that. If you've used it in the past, you know how powerful that is. If you haven't, Well, you've got those student devices or clickers now. A lot of times teachers will ask and say, how often should I use the clickers? And I jokingly say, only on days where you need student engagement, informative assessment, and data. So I'll come back to the progress tracker in a bit. When I click on this, I can click in here and I can sort, and I can see, well, some of the kids are in red. They missed 2 out of the 4 questions, but poor Tom, he missed all 4 questions. So we're going to work with him. And I know, so I just taught and assessed for the last 15 or 20 minutes. I know he was struggling right then. So I can have a Zoom room that I can work with him on immediately right away. All right. So the next thing that I want you to see, all right, is we're gonna look at some of our content. Now, the content that we have, we've got a lot of math, a lot of reading, a little bit of science, and not very much social studies. All right. That said, okay, you can, I'm going to show some ways that you can do your own quizzes and own assessments in here from preparing. All right. And we've got in our other webinars, I've got show some ways to create quizzes and assessments on your own and some shortcuts for that. Okay. So I'm just going to quickly run through a couple of examples on the content side so you can see some of the things that you have access to. All right. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to look at an instructional module. So we built these initially on the math side. We're working on language arts right now. Okay. So they take a concept, all right, or in a standard. So this one is on symmetry, all right, and I can activate this. Now I'm going to activate this as a live synchronous environment here. So I'm going to use the clickers, right? If they were all devices, I could use the web clickers, but I've got clickers here that we're going to collect data with here in just a second. So what is this? Well, this is a lesson. This lesson has learning intentions and success criteria, all right? So we've got the end in mind, right? And now I'm just going to start to use this as my PowerPoint or my instruction. I'm going to go in and supplement this. We'll talk about this. So there's a butterfly. We take something common. Here's a triangle, all right? You see we fold it over. So those of you that may have had, needed to get brushed up on your symmetry, you see how easy this is, right? And now what do we have? Well, we've got questions. So we had instruction and now we've got assessment to go with it. So I just click start question, okay? Now, I'm gonna just real quickly, what we do in this environment is we broadcast this out to the students, okay? So if you were using this, right, whether it was your own that you uploaded PowerPoint and added some questions, or this right here, okay, the students will see it as you're leading them through it, okay? So I'll click start question here. And so I'm gonna have some students, we'll just real quickly answer the question, but I wanted you to see, what does Tom see? He sees the question. He can click in his answer. All right, so I'm going to stop. I'm going to do a little bit of reteach on that, and then we're going to go. So these are tiered questions. So now we're going to go to another straightforward question. All right, so I did the reteach. We'll see if we kind of pick that up. Okay, we didn't. So I've got some more work to do, but you'll see we've got additional questions. We tier them, all right, and can continue through that. So, and then we've got more instruction after that. So we go deeper into the concept, into the standard, all right. So I'm gonna do end session here, and I'm gonna do okay, all right. So that was a synchronous example of me leading my class through that. Now, what I want you to see is I'm going to go back to that instructional module, okay? And what I can do is I can activate this. And if everybody was at home, I could use the web clickers. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to post this to the portal. So I want the students to be able to log in and see this. Okay, so I want them to go in on their own, and maybe this is an assignment that we do before class even starts. So it's kind of that flipped model where they're going to do things before they come to a lecture, etc. Not lecture, but before they come to class instruction. All right, so I'm going to click next, and I'm going to click activate. So in this example here, I'm going to go back in as Tom. All right. The teacher has assigned this, right? So now as a student, I can launch that, and I can walk through the instruction on my own. So I think we've got, with the exception of grade 2, we've got pre-K to 5 done. So if you're a math teacher, a math teacher, you're using All Learning, these are hopefully are good tools. They combine instruction and assessment. All right. I'm going to go back to the home there. All right. They're great for remediation. They may be great for enrichment in some scenarios and intervention in other scenarios. So you got all of those, you got those at your fingertips. What I'm going to do, what I'm going to show right now is I'm going to go to the exit ticket since we talked about this, since I taught on this, right? I'm going to hop to turn off 8th grade, hit 4th grade, and I'm just going to type in 4.6B to the search, and I've got an exit ticket there. Okay, so now what I can do is I'm going to activate this. I'm going to use this with the student portal. Right. Let me back up. Here's what I want to do. I can activate it, but I'm going to do something additional. So I'm the lead on my team, and I've got a group of 4th grade teachers that I work with in the district. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to preview that exit ticket. It's got 3 questions on it. I like it. Great. So I'm going to click copy to my assessments and click confirm. All right. So I'm going to go to my assessments now. And there's that 4.6B exit ticket. So what I can do from here is, many of you have used All Learning where you share an assessment, you distribute it to the members of your PLC. Can still do that. But what I can do now is I can say, get this embed link and share it with teachers, and I'm going to copy this. So we work in it we've been working and trying to crowdsource assessments and activities and so forth for the year. So I've got my Google Doc here, and I've got my 4.6B exit ticket. And this is a document that I'm sharing with other teachers in the district, other 4th grade math teachers. And now anyone can just click on that, and it's going to launch it. So you can, some of you, I know, some of you, your schedule hasn't changed. Some of you are going to have additional time before school starts because of some of the hot spots and spikes that have occurred. So guess what you can do? Network, starting right now, network with other teachers in the district, and y'all can go in and build these using art content, using your own or a combination. All right. And now watch what I'm going to do. Now I'm going to post this to the student portal for the students to take. So as a teacher, I can set a time limit. I'm not going to worry about kicking them out. I'm going to scramble the questions just to promote a little student integrity, right? And I'm going to click next, and I'm going to click activate. Okay. So this is on. So this class has access to the 4.6B exit ticket. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to notify them that this exit ticket is live, right? So I'm going to go to Google Classroom, and I'm going to say, I'm going to share with Google, please take 4.6B exit ticket. And I'm going to add the link for that right here. I'm going to click post. And now the students in that class, they hit Google Classroom, they click on that, it launches it, okay? Now, I don't want you left out, so we don't just work with Google Classroom. So now where am I? I'm in Canvas. I want to add a new assignment in Canvas. I'll just say this is 4.6B exit ticket. And I'm just going to paste that right there. And I'm going to say save and publish. Now, so for that class, I've just published that assignment. So the students can, they can click on that link, all right? And they can click on that link and take it, all right? So back to my teacher account, I'm back to the student account, all right? Let me refresh this. So there's his exit ticket. So we remember we jumbled up the order. We got the questions in. So Tom got a 33, all right? So that's, he says, you know what, I can do better than that. I'm gonna take it again. Well, you can't, right? So you have to, you can't retake that at this time, okay? So on the teacher side, all right, let me see, it's right here. So I see that Tom had the 33. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let the students take the assessments, take it when they're done, all right? I don't have to stay on the screen. Obviously, I have other tabs open. I don't have to leave this open. I can come back in and open it in a day or so. But when we're done, I'm gonna say end session and okay. And again, of course, it writes the data to the reports. Now, at the end of every session that we do, we ask you, do you want to add this to the progress tracker? So I talked a little bit earlier about the gaps from the spring, all right? What I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna add this to the tracker. So how does a tracker work? Well, it tracks a class, it tracks a standards document or standards body. So this is tracking the 4th grade math standards. So I'm gonna say add to tracker. Great, all right, so let's go in and look at that class on the 4th grade math standards. Okay, so if you've ever kept a spreadsheet with the students down the left-hand side and the standards across the top, that's what this is, except we do the work for you. In the old model, you had to do everything. In this model, we do everything. So hopefully that makes you happy, all right? So we see, I click the hide empty columns. So we see that there's, man, this teacher's actually, I've asked 62 questions on 4.6A, the class has a 38. Then what we do is we show you the progression on that standard. So you can mouse over and see what the standard is. You would probably already know it, but parents and students won't, and they can do that same thing. So I see that on this first assessment here, that's added to the tracker, for this standard, there are 5 questions and the class is a 53.8. And so whenever we show you a standards score, we always show you the frequency, the number of questions on that standard. So we're helping you track this with the snapshot data, all right? So if you look at JLo down here, she is rocking this standard. Man, she doesn't need any more instruction on this. She doesn't need any more assessment on this. She's got it, all right? So I can level her up, I can challenge her, etc. But Tom, on the other hand, we're going to go look at his journey on this standard, because the journey is a lot of times what we're trying to identify. So Tom on 4.2B has answered 21 questions. He has a 52.4, so he has a horrible average. What this shows me here is that he missed 9 out of the first 10 questions. So we intervened, I got the coach involved, and then look what happened. He absolutely took off after that. And it's not just 1 or 2 questions, he answered a number of questions here. So he's gotten 10 out of 11 questions correct. So he went from struggling to mastering it. So if it were me, when school starts, I would in All in Learning, okay, capture some data especially on the high leverage standards. I would add that to the tracker, so I've got a baseline for my classes on the priority standards, the high leverage standards, where are we on this? Where do we have work to do? Who needs help? And then as we document that they're struggling, and then we can build from there. So this is, a lot of times documentation is what you need to tell a parent to communicate with the student, hey, you're not getting this. We've tried multiple things. We're going to try these things now, okay? But this is an area that we need to grow in, that we need help, okay? So that's a critical role that we can play with the gaps from the spring. This is a very powerful thing that we can provide. Now, I'm going to do one thing to get it from my account to the student accounts. I just click Post to Student Portal. So when they log in, guess what they see? They can see their tracker, and they can see how they're doing on the standards, okay? So what I'm going to do while we're on the data, I want you to see a couple other examples here, okay? I need to change one thing here, and then we'll start from the top. Let me move. All right, so when you open an assessment, the first thing that you see is, you see, how did the class do? So you can sort, and you can see, this is, they're the kids that struggled, right? I want you to see this report right here. It's powerful for you and for the student, all right? So Christina had a 60 on the assessment, which is not what we wanted. Look at the standards data. She did great here. 2 out of 3 isn't bad, okay? 1 out of 3 is. 2 out of 3 is not all bad, okay? This one is my concern. So she doesn't understand that. She missed 3 out of 4 questions. So I'm going to intervene with her based on the data here, really focusing on this one. I may give her a little activity on this one, but this is one where she needs some serious help. Excuse me. So what I'm going to do, you saw me remove it. I'm going to click Post to Student Portal, and I'm going to click Confirm. All right. So now she's going to log in. When she logs in, she'll be able to see that report in her account, as well all the students. So this is, if you think about some of the buzzwords out there, personalized learning, this is personalization, this is differentiation. When students log in and are looking at this data, that's the big part of student agency, is them owning the data. So just real quickly, we got Tom here. I'm going to click on the sessions, and here's that reading test. Oh, I did great on the reading test, but we actually see there was a weakness that we identified, and that's this one right here. So he didn't get 4.10b. So I know he can see that. So I didn't give him a test one day, create grade it, give him, not this kind of extended loop of turning it in, grading it, trying to get feedback, and then trying to break down the standards. We streamline all of that. So you got one platform that'll help you track how your students doing on the standards, and then they can see that. So we're going to extend from that to the progress tracker. So Tom can log in with his parents if he wants to. So it's the same login information for both, and he can see how he's doing, progressing on the standards. So this is not your night or weekend generating the data, nor is it your night or weekend getting the data to the students. So we're saving you time throughout this whole process. All right. So I'm going to go back here. What I think I'm going to cover next. Let me check my agenda. Okay. What we're going to do now is I'm going to go to the reading passages. Okay, and then we'll come back and do the show your work option. All right. So in addition to the instructional modules, we looked at the exit tickets. We do have a tab here that is fun activities. So these are Jeopardy boards. These are typically have about 16 questions in them and cover a couple of standards, usually sometimes 1, sometimes 2. So just a preview, you can play this live, all right? So you see that you can activate it right away and play it. So it's a great synchronous activity, all right? Here's the slideshow on it. So we can click in and see questions that are there, all right? if you wanted to, you could copy it to your assessments and then post it to the student portal. Okay, so that's another resource that we have, right? And those are meant to be more review type activities, right? So you don't have to play the whole board either. If you're going to play it in class, you could just play a column of questions that day. I'm going to go to the reading passages here. So the reading passages, I think we've got them. They're not posted yet, but we'll have the second grade eventually this fall. But we've got for third and fourth grade and fifth grade, we've got reading passages, and you can hop in here, and you can you can look at those. You can see the details. Are cats good pets? So there's 63 words. There are 9 questions. You'll see there's a checkbox here. So that means there's a Spanish version of it. So I can click view. And this is a short passage, all right? It's about context and so forth. And so I can view the Spanish translation if I want to, all right? I can retrieve all the questions for this passage. So you may pull in a couple of questions, all right? I'm going to click create assessment. So I'm going to do a few. This is cat's passage. I don't know, I don't think it was third grade. All right, so I've pulled in those 5 questions. I can add more questions if I want to. So if I want to go in and view the passage, I can. I can add more questions to that, make it my own, all right? So then I can post that to the student portal. So the students can log into the student portal, and after I've activated it, they can read the passage and answer the questions. So that's me being specific with a specific passage, okay? What I want you to see is this one's a lot less work. So we have a feature called Passage of the Day. So let me turn this off. So for my 5B class, they're 5th graders, right? So I'm going to turn this on, right? And they've been assigned Casey's First Dog to read, and then they've been assigned some questions to answer, right? So when we click there, I can view the passage, right? So this is an easier way home for me because I just turn it on and it's on autopilot. So what happens is Tom sees, hey, there's a passage of the day. So he goes in, he can read the passage. We'll have coming this fall a read aloud option, okay? So students will be able to highlight some words or part of the passage and have it read to them, all right? So there were 6 questions on this. So Tom's answered those questions, and he got a 50 on it. Okay, so the students would log in. They would read the passage, answer the questions. And then what's going to happen tonight at midnight is it's going to end that passage and those questions. It's going to write the data to the reports for you, and will automatically start another passage for you the next day. So the students, when they log in tomorrow, guess what? New passage, new questions. Read it, answer it, and then you get the data tomorrow night, or probably more likely the next morning. Hopefully you're asleep when the data comes in. But you can do that. So on the passage side, you've got some really good capabilities around that to do your own, to take our passages and to use our questions or add your own, and then to also take advantage of the passage of the day. Okay, so I will show in the item bank portal. All right. We start out at pre-K, so we've got math questions down there. As early as pre-K, we can work our way up. All right. Some of you will have textbooks that will be available in the item bank portal. So this one that I'm in, if you're using Go Math, if you're using Fusion Science, and even the Ojonis and Senderos is loaded for some of our Texas customers. But you can click here, you can see questions, all right, and I can select and build from those. So we can narrow down by grade and by subject. So I may come in and say, you know what, I want to look at, start with science here, and I think it's probably, and then I probably need to select a grade. So yeah, so let me go third grade here. So we've got some content in here from Science, from Pearson. There's also the Fusion content that's loaded. Another thing that we can do, and this is, I'm going through this quickly, which is why we're recording it, all right? Is you can go back and you can search by standard. So you can go find a specific standard that you're teaching and want to assess. You can look at questions that we have access to. Again, we don't have every angle, every standard covered. So most of and we're working with people that build the questions. We built some of the math questions, but that's about the extent of it. The rest of it we've left to the to our partners, So I want to cover one more example here, and then we'll be done. All right, and it involves student work. All right, so I have now I know that this is a lot of you probably aren't doing algebra, but at the elementary level, but this is the example that I put together. So I've given the students some problems to solve. I need them to solve those problems and show me their work. So I'm going to show you how All-in Learning can help you do that. Okay. I know a lot of you do aggressive monitoring, or it's now called something else. I think it's feedback for learning or something like that. But the idea of, you used to be able to walk around the classroom and look at what the students are doing and operate that way. This is not gonna be as quick as that, but it's gonna have the same effect, okay? So the students, I've given them the problem to solve, okay? And so in All-in Learning, I went in and I built this math homework problems. So I actually went in and created a custom lesson here, and I did 3 questions. And even though the problems that I gave them were open response, in All-in Learning, I gave them answer options. Because even if I've got, let's say I've got 75 math students, with 2 problems to solve, that's 150 problems. I may not have time to grade that and record that and everything else. So, but I need the data. So All-in Learning is going to help me capture this data. So just so you can see, what I did was I created this question. I made it a multiple choice, and there are the answer options. Okay. The last question, I clicked off of it, is where they're going to submit their answers. Okay, or show their work. So let's activate this for the student portal for this class. All right. I'm not scrambling anything. We're keeping this very straightforward. So I'm going to click next, and I'm going to click activate. So now I am Tom, again, the student. I'm going to launch this assessment. So Tom's already solved these problems. So now he's entering his answers. So he's going to answer the first question. He's going to answer the second question. And he's going to go to question 3. So over here on the right, we have a submit your work option. Okay. So there's 3 things that we can do. We can link to a Google Doc, we can upload a file, or we can type in our work. All right. So I want you to see this type in work. So what I would do is I would tell my students, go to type in work, and then click on the insert image button. And now what I'll do is I'm going to select my math homework, and I'm gonna open it or upload it. So there's the work there. So I'm gonna say upload work. So say I'm finished. So what does the teacher see? Well, I'm glad you asked because I'm going to show you that. So there's Tom. He's taking this assessment. I click in here. He got the first question right. Yay. He missed the second question. Dang. Here's where I can say view student work. That all checks out. There's a mistake that he made. He subtracted 8, which was good, but he added it over here, which was not good. So that's how he got to 5. So all in learning, when used like this, now you know the exact mistake that they made. You know that they missed a question. So you can check this, and this doesn't consume your night, your weekend, your time. You're just checking the work, all right? And then the slider lets me, so if the student didn't turn in any work, they get a 0. So they missed that part of it. Okay. Tom showed his work. He did everything I asked him to. He missed it. That's okay. I've identified it. Instead of me going out and hand grading everything and that whole process being very drawn out, I've got standards data. I've got the assessment graded for me. I quickly saw where the mistake that he made. All right. So I'm going to click in session and okay. All right, and I can always add it, add to the tracker. So I'm going to stop right there. So thanks for joining us. If you were on the recording, have a great day.